Pickaxe.
Hey everyone, it's Dan Maher back with another pair of indie gaming experts so I can mine them for their many pearls of wisdom. On this occasion, I'm joined by Victoria Tran and Andrew Smith to talk about building and maintaining communities. Victoria is the communications director for Washington-based indie studio Innersloth, yes, the Among Us people, and also its indie game funding offshoot, Outersloth, who are currently funding games like Dosa Divas from Thirsty Suitors creators Outerloop Games and mecha anime-inspired card battler Battlesuit Aces. Victoria is also a published author. Her book, Mastering Community Management, was published just a day after we spoke, and judging by the reviews, it's an essential Bible for anyone wishing to build a community for their new game. If that's not enough, she also provides regular support via her community dev newsletter, which provides, quote, actionable marketing tips, my new posts, and a roundup of resources straight to your inbox every month. Andrew Smith, a veteran of the indie scene, is the founder, CEO and creative director of the award-winning Spilt Milk Studios. Founded in 2010, Spilt Milk divides its time between creating wholesome games of its own and assisting other studios with their considerable expertise, including the likes of Future Lab, Iron Galaxy and Roll7. Community has been at the heart of Spilt Milk's continued success. Its latest, the self-published cozy fantasy upcycling game Trash Goblin, was successfully kickstarted in late 2023 thanks to the support of well over 2,000 backers, and it continues to enjoy a warm and welcoming relationship with its fans since its release in May of this year. That's 2025, just in case you're watching in the distant future. More from me at the end of the show, but for now, settle in and enjoy this first time meeting of community-minded minds.
Victoria, I saw that you are now part of the Outersloth initiative. Can you tell us a little bit about what that's about and what the whole sort of funding process that you do is?
For sure, yeah. So Outersloth is basically an indie game fund that we made from the success of Among Us, and it kind of works with deals and honestly a very hands-off approach that we would have wanted like before we made Among Us and before all of the success, and that's kind of like the ethos that we're going with Outersloth. And the way we do that is basically game developers apply. We check out their games, and then if we like it, we talk to them, we play the demo a bit, and then, yeah, we sign them. It's one of those things that's really nice and really casual and easy, because at the end of the day, we're game developers, and we want to be making games and not just publishing games. But obviously, we're in a lucky enough place that we can kind of give back and fund some games, so that's what we're trying to do.
And what's the latest game on your slate?
Well, we just reviewed as of a few minutes ago before this recording, the zombie apocalypse game Long Gone. It's like a little retro adventure game. It's very good, very pretty, and also the writing slaps. It is so funny. I played the demo and I was not expecting to laugh during like a little like zombie apocalypse game, but I did. And please check it out. It's by Hillfort Games.
Sounds amazing. I mean, Andrew, you've been doing Spilt Milk for 15 years now, is that right?
Oh, don't give it a number. That's
wow.
Grim, isn't it? But yes, I have. Yes.
And how have you found that? You know, obviously Victoria's saying when Innersloth started out with doing Among Us, you know, they could have really done with something like Outersloth. How have you found the whole process of getting your games funded and making sure that you stay solvent?
I mean, it's tiring, isn't it? No, it's changed so much. In the last sort of 3 years, I think, you know, things have really changed when it comes to asking people for money to make games. But yeah, I used to kind of joke that the first 10 years of the studio, we were kind of like your traditional indie. We were just kind of like, this is a cool idea, and then we'd find someone else who likes the idea, and then we'd work together, that sort of thing. And it was a bit more traditional, going to a publisher and pitching. Whereas, yeah, now it's straight to the players. I'm afraid they're the ones with the taste and the money. So, you know, let's go there.
So, Victoria, you've worked in community development and management in some form or another for about 8 years. You've obviously been involved in amazing indies. I saw you on your CV. You've had like Vemba, Unpacking, and of course, Among Us. So, what was your route into it? It's a little obscure cult classic.
Tiny indie game.
What was your route into it? Like, how have you seen the relationship with communities change, the responsibilities for community managers change, like, over that time?
Oh my gosh, that's difficult because I think the responsibilities and the way that community managers like in their job changes kind of also shifts with whatever social media is going, like whatever is going on with social media currently. Like I'm sure you've also experienced this, Andrew. Everyone in the past few months even have been like reconsidering like what it means to work in community management and how you reach your audience, like with Twitter becoming X and TikTok shutting down for like 24 hours and then coming back, and then the algorithm changing a little bit. Like it's hard to define, I think, because like we're just as affected by anything that like the tech giants decide they want to do, but also just like with shifting culture and with increasing like globalization and all that sort of thing. I think when it comes to community managers and how our job changes and what works and what doesn't, it is very much we're finding it out as much as anyone else is. We just have to hope for the best.
And like the whole TikTok thing was hilarious, right? That ban,
oh my God.
Right? Because
yeah,
I don't know about you are like out of the two of us the expert, I would say. But like it's so tempting to react really quickly to everything going on in social media because you want to be on trend, you want to be part of the conversation. And as soon as TikTok shut down, I imagine there were whole groups of social media managers and things like that going, I guess we find the next thing, and like trying to move their whole operation to something else, only for it to not really have been worth the effort, right? So there's this element of like having to wait a little bit just to see how the shockwaves settle or whatever. That was an interesting time.
Truly, I don't know what's going on. It's wild out there.
And Andrew, as you sort of hinted there, community management obviously isn't your primary role. You're the creative director at Spilt Milk. So how involved are you in the community side of things? How do you manage that alongside all of your other responsibilities?
Well, early days, it was just me and like one or two other people working on a game. So I was just kind of terminally online, basically. I think 2010. I was there, early days Twitter and all that kind of thing, and it was great fun because you get to kind of network and also talk to your players, right? Like it was business as well as the B2B as well as B2C. Oh, that's horrible. And then, as we grew and as we gained a bit more success, it just becomes unmanageable for part of someone's day. So you have to kind of adapt. And really, it was around like 2020 that we brought on an amazing creator by the name of Chocolate Kieran as like a part-time community manager. And there was a little bit of content creation and a little bit of social media and a bit of community management, and these are all different things, right? Different skills, but we were still at a size where that made sense. And now that we're seeing hopefully more success with our current game, you kind of start to find, well, hang on, this is a full-time job for a whole person, maybe more than one person, and how you adapt. But we're in that weird sort of middle ground where we're successful enough to have a busy community that needs managing, but we can't quite afford, or we don't think we can quite afford a full-time person for it. So it's, when do you make that leap? When do you make that jump? But as I grew with the studio and with the various platforms for social media, I do find that I have like a somewhat kind of gut understanding of what works, what doesn't, and the voice developed of our studio over that time, and it is very similar to mine, which has its advantages and disadvantages, I suppose. But yeah,
your new game, or your latest release, I should say, Trash Goblin. This is a fantasy game. It's about the satisfaction of cleaning up trinkets. It's very low pressure. It's very chill out. But it originally featured this puzzle element inspired by, I would know it's Picross, also known as nonograms. But you decided to remove that. So what role did the community play in that decision to remove that element, and what made you feel that you as a studio are making the right choice by doing that?
So it was basically watching them nope out of the game. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say we would take it to some physical events and some digital stuff, but we would have people basically point at the thing, go, oh my God, I'm a Trash Goblin, run over. This happened more than once. So I'm literally run over, sit down, be like, oh my God, the art's like what they want, the vibes are what they want. And then they're clicking on things. It's like, oh, this is great and scrunchy. And then they bring up that first trinket that you got to chip away the dirt, and it presents this little puzzle. Now they're not hard, and you can't really fail them. We made sure of that. But as soon as those people who were all about it saw numbers, maths, logic, puzzles, failure, potential for like lost time, they basically just got up and walked off. And you're like, I have to listen to this. Like, I can't hide from this, right? And we talked about it internally. It's like, what do we want to do? Do we want to make a game that has those elements and build on that in a way that we're seeing doesn't necessarily mesh with how the game presents? So we'd have to address that. Or do we want to lean into this? And we decided to lean into it. And it's the best decision we ever made, frankly. You just got to listen. You got to have like no ego. They're right. What they're saying might be offensive. It never was with them. It might be rude. Maybe it was. But it's not necessarily what they're saying. It's the intent behind it. It's the emotion behind it that you've got to listen to and figure out. So,
have you had any experience of that, Victoria? Have you been part of any game with a studio that's made a decision to change something as a result of that community feedback, or conversely, have you ever had to deal with a time when changes have been made that the community are quite vocally against, but the developer themselves have been quite steadfast in their sort of decision to implement that change or that addition?
Players being against a certain thing? I've never heard of that.
No,
and being
they love change. They love change.
They love change. I don't know what you're talking about. This has never happened to me. Sorry, no. No, I think it happens all the time. And I think, especially depending on who you get playing your game, it's like they will all want something different. I'm sure when you had Picross Trash Goblin, like there are probably some people who love Picross. I'm one of those people who love Picross, and we're like, this is amazing. This is exactly what I wanted. And then, you take it out and they're like, well, now you've ruined the game. Right? So I think that is something that any game developer, whether you're a community manager or a creative director, just has experience. You can't please everyone. Everyone has their own certain game. But yeah, we've definitely been in that situation multiple times in multiple games that I've worked on, right? Like everyone has their opinion, everyone wants something different from it. And I think it is important to consider, your team's goals. Like, is this actually something that you want to do? Like, as much as someone walking away from a thing doesn't feel great, maybe that's just not the creative direction that you want to go. That's not like the vision that you had for your game. And it's a hard balance to take for sure. And that's why, it involves that team discussion and whatnot. But I think as long as you know it's normal and you're willing to kind of judge the numbers and what you're trying to do, it makes sense.
I was going to ask, do you find that's easier at scale, right? Like, with Among Us, obviously, like the response must be very quick and very clear. Is it easier, or is it just louder, and so you still have to kind of boil it down to the same kind of process?
Yeah, it's actually it's weird because it is easier in some respects because yes, you get that instant feedback, but as you know, sometimes you don't want, sometimes instant feedback is actually not great. They're just very reactionary and you're not quite sure this is reflecting the entire community. But then again, it's sometimes when you have a large enough player base, there's so many different opinions and there's so many people kind of yelling at you for what you want, that it's a little bit easier to just be look, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. And you're just so used to people kind of being unhappy either way, right? Unless you do something crazy, I guess, everything's free or something. But I think when it comes to smaller communities, it's that's even more difficult because you have less people to rely on, one, to give you opinions, but also for smaller games, sometimes just having just a few people leave your game means the game is almost over, right? There's not enough people playing. So yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting, but I think either way, people can be very loud and it can be really easy to mistake the loudness for this is actually the entire community when it's usually not.
So true. So true. And I'm going to misquote something or misremember something, but there was this report that really opened my eyes on it. It wasn't a report. It's a thing in the news. So in the UK, I think it's called Ofcom. It's basically the TV watchdog, right? So you write to them if you're offended by something or upset by something, right? And it was a crazy small number that meant that of feedback about a program that meant that they would take action or investigate something. It was like less than 100 complaints or something about a TV show meant that they would go, okay, this is the proportion of people like complaining versus compared to like the audience. You know, it's only a few that need to get to that point. And I always thought that was quite like, I want to say reactionary. I don't know. It just seemed like, you know, it's so much easier for someone to just be like negative out loud. You know, you're quick to swear when you don't like something, but you're not quick to praise something that you do. You know, like it takes effort to do the latter. And so I always try and remember, it's like, well, hang on, you know, just because they're loud doesn't mean they are many. It's more of the people upset are talking than are happy, if that makes sense, I guess. So like you got to remember the quiet majority who are perfectly happy with what you've done, right? Otherwise they'd say something. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And I think that sometimes like the funniest thing, I don't know if you've probably seen this, but sometimes the people who complain the most like aren't even that involved in your game. Like you know, some people will be like I've seen this with Kickstarters where like the person who pledges like, let's say $5, which is not to say, you know, pledging $5 is still great. But like, let's say someone who pledges $5 versus like $250, like the $5 person is like constantly in your inbox yelling at you that you've done something wrong. And the $250 person's like, I'm sorry to bother you. Like I didn't get a game key that I was supposed to get, but I'm sorry. I know you're busy. And it's like, please just, we gotta really reprioritize here.
Can confirm exactly the same thing has happened with our Kickstarter. Yes, like that. It's the weirdest thing.
It's almost as if they paid the $5 just to get that privilege, right?
Yeah.
Who can say? I wouldn't like to be drawn on that.
So one big part of this podcast is we're obviously trying to help other developers, smaller developers, who perhaps don't know much about these subjects, do a better job of it. So the big question, really, how do you start a community? Both of you have obviously worked on new IP that has no sort of brand recognition, no franchise to back it up, anything like that. So every new studio, every new creator, they begin with this blank slate. So what do you tend to advise that studios do in order to start building that sort of organic groundswell and just start to get that movement going?
I'm waiting for Victoria because I'm going to listen to the tips. I'm going to listen to the tips myself.
You already have players. Oh, I'm going out of focus. You already have players. You're good. Yeah, I mean, this one is like the question that everyone asks, right? Like it's the hardest one, especially when you're like truly starting from zero, right? So you can't say like I used to work at Riot, which I feel like I see quite a bit. Like, I don't know. So if you're like truly starting from zero, the tips that I give people, and the nice thing is that, you know, with social media now, like it actually makes it just like slightly easier maybe to find that audience, is to one, like obviously start your social media pages. TikTok in particular has been good for discoverability. Two is to start networking with your local game community if you have it. If you don't have it because you're in a location that just like, you know, doesn't have it, either look into conventions. That does get really expensive though. So if that doesn't work, then you're going online. You're going on Reddit to like r/game dev, right? And that can be still very difficult because it is a lot of time investment. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that, yes, that's the point. It is supposed to be like, you don't just get a community from like sitting there and like hoping for the best. You have to, if you don't have one yourself, you do have to put yourself out there, and it's going to be kind of cringe. You're going to hate it a little bit, but you got to do it. And then third is it's just to start kind of creating your game. Like I think a lot of people try to build that community from the start without having anything to get excited about. They're like, well, I need the community before I can like launch my game, or else nothing's going to happen. And to be like completely honest, usually your first game fails anyway. It's your learning experience. And part of it is that unless you're very, very lucky, which I would not count on, part of the experience is to just try and go out there and get your community using your first game, right? So that's posting on social media, that is showing it at shows, that's trying to get a publisher for it maybe that can help you out. It is also just getting your friends and family to play it and getting them to like join your Discord or something. Like you just need to start somewhere and literally like from ground level, reaching out to people in wherever they are. Once you're big enough, usually people will come to you, right? Like they'll find your social media. They'll be like, oh, like I really love your games. I'm going to follow you. But when you're starting from nothing, you have to be the one to go out there and find people in whichever way you can, is like my best advice. There's no easy way to do it. There is no really quick way to do it. You just got to do it.
Couldn't agree more. I think like the thing I always try to do first, if I'm trying to find where players are of a particular kind of game or whatever, is to literally just act like a fan of those games. Open up Google and just be like, type in a search that you would as a fan of those games. Just go, hot tips on, or like where fan art of, or whatever, and then that's how you start to find some of the more kind of like interesting and passionate communities, I think. And then the real thing is you have to become a part of it. You can't just go in as a salesperson, right? Like you have to be authentic in that way. So it's a lot easier if you are making something you genuinely care about and genuinely have like a passion for. And it's harder if you're not, I suppose. At that point, you have to be, I think, like you were saying, you have to show something of worth. I think the worth that you have to show, or the value of the thing you're showing, has to be many steps beyond for something where you're just saying, hi, we've made a good one of these, and we're not necessarily of your people, as opposed to going, hi, I'm one of you, look at this cool little thing I'm trying to make, right? Those are two very different sort of challenges, I suppose. Yeah, like just being, I think that's the authenticity. Like even if being honest and authentic is saying, I'm not necessarily part of this community, but like identifying why you want to be or what you're trying to do for that community with your game, that's like a way in. And it's about, I guess it's that being a little bit vulnerable about it. And Victoria, you mentioned it's difficult, it's cringy, right? But if you can just manifest like a 40-year-old straight white guy and the confidence that is just innate there, right? But the way of doing that, the secret to that is going, everything I'm doing is interesting to someone, right? Like you might not find them initially, but fundamentally the people exist, they're out there, right? Like for everyone who hates a song, there's 10 people who love that song, right? So you just got to keep trying. And if you get to a point where you're like, it's not working, then okay, maybe the idea isn't all that, and maybe you do need to rethink an element of what you're trying to do. But yeah, just do try and talk about your stuff as if it's interesting, even if you're like, I don't think it is, because someone will find it interesting. Silly bugs, funny hacks, weird.
Being a trash goblin.
Which
I also, when I saw the title of that game for the first time, I was like, I am a trash goblin. You're right. So yes,
the community for that game is everybody.
Everyone is a trash goblin.
Yeah.
Everyone feels seen. Andrew, you've only released a handful of games over the last decade, and each one's like drastically different to the last. You've gone from like Tango Fiesta, you've had Crabs back in a battle royale, and now we've got Fantasy Trinket Cleaning Simulator. So do you maintain a community because you now have the fans' relationship with the studio rather than the games themselves?
That's a really tough one. So I think the first sort of 10 years, as I said, was us finding what we wanted to do. And I think that we did an effective job of finding people for those games, and also as a studio getting known. Just because like I would put my hand up. Like when I was asked to do this, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I don't really think it through. It's like, oh God, what am I doing? But that's kind of just like a personality quirk, I suppose. And then the community that really stuck and started to build when we first started a Discord for our community, like something that like, well, we don't own it, but we have them come to our place, was for Lazarus, which was a now dead sci-fi MMO, which is very different to Trash Goblin. Obviously, I don't need to go into why. And an element of that community stayed with us because they latched onto how open we were with the development, how active we were in the Discord. It's something that we've always done. Ever since I graduated and struggled to find a job initially, it took about 6 months. It's not the worst, but at the time I was like, what is this? I came out of modding, like Half-Life and things like that. But I still viscerally remember how hard it was to find information on how to work in games, let alone how to find a job once you've got the skills. So that's something I've just always believed that we should do a better job at. And luckily the industry has changed. And so it's just something that we habitually do. It's just very natural to us to be open and honest and things like that. So what I think is certainly some of the moderators who've come with us and a few, a chunk of the community just were like, well, you seem like nice people and we like you hanging out with you and stuff. So let's see what you do next. And they've kind of come with us on the journey a little bit, which has been stressful at times because we were very much like, we don't have anything. You're here for our games. We don't have one for like years. Like we've got a secret we're working on. It gets cancelled. We've got this we're working on. Can't share. But like I say, you just figure out anything that you think might be interesting. And sometimes we're just being real teasers. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just like, you just got to kind of go there, I suppose.
But, Victoria, how transparent do you think studios should be about a game's development? Do you feel like sometimes if you show too much of the process, that there's a danger that the community can that the community can almost become like a committee in the way they start, treating your game?
Yeah. My answers are always, it depends. I can't give you a straight answer, right? I think it depends on like your comfort level, your ability to be this transparent, because it takes a lot of time and effort to be to write up everything, to explain everything, as like Andrew it clearly knows about, and to clear up any misunderstandings that might come up, because you're like, oh, this is perfectly written, then someone misunderstands it, you're like, ah, shoot, okay. So there's the time commitment. It's not even just about I'm sure many people are so down, to be honest. They're like, you know what, I would love for you to know how to do this. And then the time commitment that goes into it is a lot. Or, you could just be legally blocked by things sometimes, right? Some third party does not want you talking about a thing. So now you're like, or you're signed with a publisher and they're like, don't talk about that yet. I think it just really depends. I don't think necessarily, you shouldn't lie to your community, right? Let's not go there. But when it comes to transparency, I think that can take a lot of different angles depending on what you're doing. So whether that is showing people how something is made, or maybe after something launches, explaining, hey, this was the thinking behind it, or being some people consider the transparency, the humor of just okay, what I'm doing right now sucks and I hate this, right? It's very relatable. So yeah, I think every developer, especially if you're indie, that's kind of the beauty of being an indie game developer. You get to be more transparent than you normally would be. I think there should be some element of transparency, but I think what that kind of manifests as can vary and work for however you like to do it.
From a sort of commercial point of view, there's an element of wanting to maintain a level of trust and confidence, right, in you as a studio, and that you're going to be doing the right thing for the game over the long term. And so, we early on, Trash Goblin is a shopkeeping game, sort of. It's not a shopkeeping sim. There's no risk. There's a lot of reward, but there's no risk. And a lot of people came to it saying, "Hey, where's the haggling? You got gameplay for all these things, and then the customer comes and they just buy the thing, and you don't have any control." It's I totally understand. However, haggling is risk, and it's also social interaction, even with an NPC that invites kind of embarrassment and awkwardness and all this kind of stuff. Now, from a mechanical point of view, we came up with a bunch of ideas for how we might put haggling in the game. The team hated them all, and it was fine. Okay, cool. We just won't do it then. But we also at the same time asked, at that stage, we were do you want haggling in or not? What does it mean to you? If it was in, what would it be? And we got as many people saying, do not put haggling in the game, or if you do, put it in with a toggle, or I will find you. As we had people genuinely engaging with the question, saying, "Oh, here's what I would like haggling to be," and it was just really eye-opening. And fundamentally, it was we learned so much about our community at that point. We know it's a cozy game, we know it's wholesome, we know it's low risk, low pressure, but how much people valued that. They were if you do anything to make my little goblin time feel stressful, then you're failing the whole point of me playing it. It's to switch off, to have a completely stress-free time in some kind of, you know, shopkeeping / job fantasy, right? Like, so we were like, oh, okay, so we're never putting haggling in. Like, that's just not a thing. Like, hell no. But we'd never really thought about it as strongly as that, and it was just the perfect way of going, oh, sweet. And so there we were able to avoid a huge mistake, right? Like, just by asking. But Victoria, you as you said, like, the bigger the project, the bigger the audience, the more careful you have to be around this sort of thing. And at some of the scales of games that you see these days, me asking that question in our server would have been taken as a headline somewhere and turned into clicks somehow, right? Like, or some offhand comment could have been. So I'd have been like, oh, maybe I don't ask. You know, maybe we have like a committee of like moderators or people who are super players or what. I don't know. Like, that's a challenge we're going to hopefully undertake at some point. But yeah, there's no correct answer, right?
Yeah. Do you and this is not really on the topic of the community, but I'm curious because I know a lot of game developers kind of deal with this, and you were talking about like some people just want to turn their brain off after a game. As a creative director, like, when you play games, do you have that thing where you play a game and you like see the design of it and you can't turn off your work brain? Like, do you constantly like see like, oh, that's this genius, I should do this, or like something like that? Are you like constantly inspired or like trying to nitpick someone's design or something?
Yes, but not in such a grandiose way. Like, I'm constantly being like, ah ha ha, my next best game idea. But it's very hard to switch off, absolutely. And so, like, for me, Power Sim, which was one of the like direct inspirations for the game, once we realized what it needed to be, it's just so good. I loved it. I just think it's brilliant. And as we've been making Trash Goblin and then seeing the reaction and then understanding like, oh, hang on, people just want to switch off. I'm like, I want to switch off. So like, personally, I would never have thought I'd be in the market for buying something like Trash Goblin, but now I am, as I'm like a complete convert. A lot of our older games were a lot more sort of action-y stuff. But yeah, like we hey, I'm gonna, yeah, with Among Us, right? Like we play that quite regularly as like little social moments in the team, and like there's so much of that I it just opens my eyes, like to you know, what's the best way of putting it? Like, some of the friction in the game is absolutely on purpose, right? Like it's there because it serves a purpose, and my designer brain is going, that's smart. Like you could ostensibly respond to some feedback from the community that's completely, what's the word, like emotionally true from them. They're like, this, that, and the other is like, why are you doing this? And even engaging with that kind of spoils some of the magic, I think, because it's a game that lives in your head as much as it does on the screen. I don't want to dive into specifics, but yeah, I just think that's an example where I'm supposed to be hanging out with the team and figuring out who stabbed me, and all I can think about is, you know, how this element is like obscuring half the view, and it's annoying to me, but it's like, but it's on purpose, because if it wasn't, I'd have too much information, all that stuff. I love it. Yeah, that's great.
I think it occurs in any industry though, doesn't it? You know, if you're a musician or a filmmaker, you know, a filmmaker will sit down and then you're half concentrating on that story, but half it's you unpicking the camera angles and why they made that choice and what that edit is. You know, it's the same everywhere. It happens. Yeah, sometimes knowing how the sausage is made does ruin the magic a little bit, but sometimes it can be like, you know, that Penn and Teller show where they had like watch magicians and they have to figure out how it's done as well. I feel sometimes it's like that. It's not so much that you're looking at it going, oh, I can take that idea. Sometimes you're actually trying to unpick the magic of it and go, how did they even do that? How did they even conceive of that? And I really like reading the Nintendo, the interviews they do. They do the really in-depth interviews with the teams after a game comes out. So the new Donkey Kong's just come out today as of time of recording. And they show the genesis of it, and in a kind of an uncharacteristically Nintendo fashion, they show a very early development thing where they've got a Goomba and they've just attached two giant fists onto it from one of the enemies in Odyssey and gone, can we just smash up an environment and see how that works? And then, you know, Donkey Kong is born out of that. And that stuff I find absolutely fascinating. So it is really interesting to sort of look at these geniuses and then unpick all the little moments. And as you say, the little frictions and the little things that you think are there by error. And it's like, no, it's entirely, you know, it's a feature, not a bug, you know?
Yeah, and it elevates the masterpieces, right? When I've spent some time with the game not thinking like that, I'm kind of stopping and going, oh my God, oh, I was just enjoying this, like as a...
Yeah.
right? And you're like, oh damn, and then your brain's like, wait, what? What about and it doubles down. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so real. Because I find that I don't. Oh, sorry, we can totally move on from this.
No, go.
No, I was just gonna say, like, because I, like, after the end of my workday, I'm like, I don't want to interact with anyone. I don't want narrative. I don't want to play with anyone. I just want to see big number go up and my brain can shut down.
I'm absolutely with you on that.
Yeah.
Solo player. Press button, monkey press button, receive treat.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
That's my favorite game.
This monkey is not pressing the button on the big monkey right now. Like it's downstairs, and I'm doing this instead of playing Donkey Kong. I'm just putting out there.
Exactly.
That's how much I care about this, and how and you and the industry.
I salute your sacrifice.
Wow.
All right, steering us back on topic, and it's more of a it's kind of a fundamental thing, but platforms. You've already talked about the volatility of platforms in the social space right now, with not Twitter and Facebook and all of those things kind of being a car crash now. So, which platforms do you feel, for someone who has to kind of maybe focus on just one or two because they lack the resources or the time to do it, which are the ones that you think they should really focus on to build that community? I mean, I'm looking at Discord, for example, as like number one.
My only thought on this, and then Victoria, you've written whole articles on this stuff, but like, I wonder how much it is about the you as a person as much as it is about like the audience for the game that you think you're making, right? Like, if you're down for conversation, Discord, newsletters are a bit more sort of like lecture-y, if you, for want of a better word. I like to sit and think and just like, plan my thoughts and present and then maybe talk in the comments. TikTok and Insta and Shorts are a bit more performative, a bit more sort of like TikTok's on the kind of like easy, rough, ready, like low production budget end, and then you can kind of scale up. And that's kind of about who you are and what you're comfortable doing, I guess. Like that would at least make it easier. But Victoria, I don't know, there's probably, very much more advice you can give.
No, I completely agree. Like, that was going to be my answer too, of just like, it depends. It depends on who you are as a person and what brings you energy, or what doesn't like kill your energy as much as something else. Especially, again, if we're talking small, you don't have someone who's more dedicated to it. So let's say if you're like small, you don't have a dedicated social media person. I would at some point like test out them, at least claim your handles, right? Like, so no one can take them from your other social media spots. My generic information for you is like, TikTok is great for discoverability, which I just mentioned. And let's say like, maybe not X at this rate, Blue Sky perhaps might be better for like game developer connections. And it depends on what your goal is. But I would test out everything and just see what works for you and what you like to do. Because some people, for example, so actually Long Gone, the game that I was just talking about, like, he does developer logs on YouTube, like, constantly. And he gets a really good audience from that. And that's what's working for him. And now he's so used to it that he's just constantly doing it. And he doesn't like tweet that much, which is totally fine because this is what is working for him. And I think that also plays into, like, if you want to think a little more like a social media manager, is like, okay, like your effort versus like the payoff that you're getting. And you're not necessarily going to see like a direct conversion from like, oh, I got 500,000 views on TikTok and that definitely equals 100 wish lists, right? You might not get that. You might see a little spike, but you can't guarantee that. So instead, what you want to look at is like, right, so like where like my follower count and like my engagement, so the numbers of like people that are actually responding to my content, seeing my content, liking my content, sharing my content, very important, sharing. And then like how much effort it actually takes me to do this, and if I actually enjoy it or if I'm going to burn out, and continuing with that. And then you can kind of let the other one, I'm not even going to lie, like for smaller developers, I'm like, just let the other ones die. The ones that you were testing on and you're like, this isn't working, let it die. It's fine. Keep it around for when you have like big beats, like the game is out or something. But otherwise, just focus on like one or two that you can actually keep updated, and people can be like, okay, this is the place that they are definitely talking in. And Discord is nice, but I will say Discord is a lot of work because Discord is a 24/7 thing that people are always talking in. So kind of keep that in mind, that like some things are like open 24/7.
Do you feel with communities though, and this is the way I see things at the moment, is because other channels have become quite volatile or even unpredictable in terms of like, am I pandering to the algorithm? Something like Discord represents a sort of a degree of safety. It represents like a degree of a tribal element to it, which I guess, you know, in the old days it would have been chat rooms and things like that, where you kind of find your people and you know that everyone in that space has the same sort of shared goal, whereas everything else is still feels a little bit more Wild West these days.
Honestly, no, I wouldn't say Discord is that, because Discord is still something that you don't own and that you can't control. So, right, like, so let's say Discord decides, and Discord at some point was selling games, and then they're like, now we're not selling games. And now they have Discord orbs, which I actually don't know what that is. I just saw it pop up and then I immediately X'd out of it. They have Discord orbs, and I don't know what it is, but let's say it was something that was like, now you can't access a Discord unless you buy an orb. That's not what it is, but let's say it was. Then now your whole tribe, let's say, is gone. So this is why like marketers will also say like you need to have a newsletter, because someone's email, like that's the least volatile thing of like the tech world. Let's say like you own that and you can directly go into their inbox. That is something that you really want to consider, or something like that where you are less affected by whatever a different platform decides to do.
Yeah, like Discord, is it? I think they IPO'd, is that the phrase? So
yeah, I think
like,
so.
give it like 2 years and they'll just make a whole bunch of changes that make it not as nice a place to be. You know, we've got to be planning our Discord exit strategy, or at least our Discord kind of like, well, it's not what it used to be. Where's the new hotness, right? And something that we struggled with early on was remembering that Steam itself has a lot of community features there, right? And I mean, I have opinions about the sorts of behavior they what's the word? They don't encourage it, but some of the they permit a lot, and they encourage like being able to find a review funny and like give someone points for it. It's like, oh, that's one of the single most annoying things that's ever been done to communities, because it's just, hey, performative reviews. That's a different podcast. But it is very much, you know, you've got a direct-ish line to people who literally play your game. And then the other thing is in your game, like, you know, your little news panels and things like that. Like, we still don't do that. We did for a bit, and then it was a lot, and then we need to get back to it. But yeah, all of those ones where it's like, oh, it's not technically a platform, a social media platform, but it's a place you can talk to people who are playing your game.
And the antithesis of this, and you must have been witness to it at some point, what do you think represents bad or inadequate community management?
Bad community management is, I'm like trying to, I don't want to like throw people under the bus, you know? It's just like, I think
name names.
Let's burn bridges. You know, that's bad community management, just burning bridges constantly. No, honestly, I'm quite, how do I put this, like sympathetic to game developers in the sense that everything takes so much time. And like I could say bad community management is one where you're just not there at all. You're not communicating at all. And sometimes that just has to happen. You just want to release a game. You're like, I'm sick of this. So to me, I think bad community management is just like, it's actively seeing your players as sales numbers rather than people. I think similar to going back to what like Andrew was saying, like if you're trying to find your community and you go in there and you're just in there to be like a salesperson, you don't actually care. You're just like, I know that you want this game and like I'm going to make a lot of money out of it sort of deal. I feel like that's also just the antithesis of like indie game development. It's like you're making a thing that you're passionate about and that hopefully you want to share with other people in some capacity. And the only way that community management can be quote unquote bad is that you don't actually care about the people who play your game. You don't care about even the game itself. You're just there to like pump out money. That to me feels icky.
Yeah, I hard agree with that. I was trying to think of like specific examples where I like if I've made mistakes and things like that, but I think it's hard to point at like specific do's and don'ts, right? Like that's like it's a general just be a good person, and then you probably won't be bad at managing your community because your community is very reflective of what you feed it, right? One of the nicest things about working on Trash Goblin is that the community is a bunch of little trash goblins, and they're all lovely. And I'm like, I never want to work on like a competitive game because I don't want to spend my energy, in a place where people are being competitive. Like that's a different energy, and that's not to say it's bad. It's just not something that I have interest in. But it's difficult. I think, just echoing what you said, Victoria, like kind of be understanding that they're people, be compassionate, be recognize that even if someone's acting out, it's not necessarily because they're a bad person. It's like an emotional state they're in, and just trying to kind of like, be okay with that. But it's all anonymous pretty much as well, so you do have to kind of lay the rules down, and you have to be seen to be enforcing them as well, which can be a bit weird sometimes. You can feel a bit like, the headmaster or whatever, sort of spoiling everyone's fun. But yeah,
sometimes it's necessary. Right, before I let you go, just got the customary 3 questions of doom that we ask all of our guests. Hopefully you had a little time to prepare these, but the first one is industry horror stories. So a tale from your experience in the industry. You don't have to name names, obviously. I don't want to burn any of those bridges. But any moment you've had in your career where it's just gone completely wrong.
So we were on the 5th round of contract negotiations, and in the meeting where with a publisher for publishing Trash Goblin, and in the meeting where we thought through our experience of this that this was it, right? We were down to like this spelling mistake and that one like choice. They went nope, and that was a thing. But on the positive side, that led to us going, well, then I guess it's Kickstarter, isn't it? And then the rest was history. So happy, but it was a horrific moment. It was a horrific moment. Fully expecting the deal is done, and it was just like nope.
That moment is real.
Yeah.
I
was going to say, what does that do to you emotionally at that moment? Because obviously it's not just a contract being pulled away, it's all that effort's already been put into the game and all that side.
Being completely honest and a bit rude, it's just bullshit, because you have to not react. You're in the meeting room with those people. So you're like, I can't burn this bridge. I want to burn it. I want to like burn it and all its children. But I can't. So I have to be, I completely understand. Oh, well, I hope we get to work together again soon. And then go and have a bit of a cry and a whiskey, which is what happened. So, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's so real.
You can't burn bridges, but you can flip tables, right?
Yeah. I have a side business where I sell tiny tables where you just flip them, and that doesn't cause any damage, but you feel good.
That's probably a game idea somewhere. You just have a little like table flipper, like so that just hang. Those like idle games that hang out on the side. You just have that. Every time you're bad, you're just like.
It's like there is one. There's an arcade game in Japan where you flip a table. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're like, I think one of them is like you're the father of the family, and you have to like bang the table, and then there's the table flipping moment. And you have to cause maximum damage. I was like, yes.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I think you could, get a little table that you attach to your 2 Switch Joy-Cons. Victoria, how about you?
God, there's so many. I'll do like a really minor one, just because I was like super early in my career, and when you're really early in your career, and also it's your first time making a mistake, you're like, I want to die. Actually, my life is over, my career is over, nothing matters, and it's not that big of a deal. But like one of my first community management jobs, I remember I had to email a bunch of Kickstarter backers, and I did. No matter how experienced you are, I did that thing where I forgot to BCC everyone. So it was hundreds of people in an email thread, and all their emails were there. And of course, some people decided to scold me by replying all. So I just had a moment in my career where I was like, early on, community management, you just have people yelling at you in your to like hundreds of people. So obviously causing even more spam. Just yelling at you that like, next time BCC everyone. I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I was like, I can't do this. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna.
We'll move to the positive stuff now. No more PTSD. the second one is about the thrill of the new. So what does it take these days for a new game to excite you? And is there anything currently on the horizon that's really prompted that feeling?
I think I'm really interested in like really weird genre mashup games. Like there's a lot of genre mashups, but I think they're like just, I don't know, just like weird little ones where it's like, because there's so many game ideas now, right? And everyone is a unique snowflake, and I love this for everyone. But when you can combine two genres that maybe don't even feel like they should mash up together, I'm like, that's so cool. That's like so fun to me. I'm trying to think of one like right now, and I can't off the top of my head, but like, I don't know. I know like Peglin, for example, did like the pachinko roguelike thing, and I was like, genius. Of course. Why has no one else done this? So something like that, I think, is just like, I love that. I love just, especially if it's, I don't know, like cozy horror farming sim, which was like Neverway currently. That's cool to me too. I think I just like things that feel like they shouldn't belong together. Just boop.
+1 for Peglin.
Yeah, it's a great game. We're going to try and get a Goblin Festival on Steam at some point.
Yes.
Spoilers, you know. For me, I think the thing that cuts through is like something that makes me laugh out loud, and often it's something that is unexpected. You're like, oh, no way, like what? You know, what am I looking at? Sometimes it's just the visuals will just do that, or like a sound effect or something. That's always cool. And then there's the, as a designer, it's the one where I wish I'd thought of that. Like, come on, how did I not? You know, that's always a killer. But I think the specific one that I'm looking forward to at the minute, although it is out in early access, is it's called Sulfur, spelled SULFUR. It's got a really like clean, sort of minimal, like stylized look. It's an FPS roguelike where you're murdering quite a lot of goblins. So maybe that says something about my relationship with the game we're working on. But it's mad, it's funny, it's like weirdly violent for how I just described it. Yeah, really, really good fun. And in fact, I rage quit it last time I played it, which was 4 months ago, because it's a proper, like, you die on the run, you've lost it all, and oh my days, I was like, I need to just step away. It was a very polite rage quit. It was, you know, non-violent, but I will go back.
Followed by whiskey and a cry.
You know, standard operating procedure.
It's traditional.
Yeah.
And finally, we have the Convergence Indie Hall of Games. So I'd like you both to nominate an all-time great that we should include in our Hall of Game. So no wrong answers. Just tell us one game and why you think it's a stone cold classic.
I'm contractually, legally obligated to say Among Us. No, I'm not actually going to nominate Among Us. Oh gosh, this is so hard. I think, I don't know. I guess and it feels like a cop out because, like, you know, when it's a really big indie game, you're like, okay, but I don't know. I feel like everything that's kind of happened with Undertale and like the way, like it, I think it also like changed the way like some players like even understand like the depth of a game sometimes. And I think it was, I don't know, Undertale to me, as big as it is, as everything is, it's like the players that it got, the kind of fandom that popped out of it and continues to pop out of it with Deltarune. I think the way that it kind of felt like it not only subverted like player expectations, but also like developer expectations. I think that's a big thing. It's kind of is where I'm currently at when it comes to a game that should be nominated for the Hall of Fame. But I'm sure like at 3 a.m. today, I'm going to wake up in a cold sweat, be like, I got to change my answer. There's something else. But that's what I'm going for now.
Yeah, I made a list of 6.
Oh, God.
I'm just going to have to pick one. I think I'm going to go with Binding of Isaac. So I bounced off of it because of the like the aesthetic. It's just not my jam, and like I think it's really well done. I just was like, it's not how I would have made that game, but it was absolutely oh my god, you've combined Zelda 3 dungeon like gameplay with an arcade roguelike or roguelite or just rogue game, and it's like I can't believe how old it is and how much content there is and how much variety there is and how well designed it is and it's like OG, like that game, I think, was like a turning point for like we're now seeing like all of the rogue games, and it's just become like a standard thing across like most of the industry. Like, was it Splatoon 3's DLC, single player DLC, was a roguelike mode? You're like, excuse me. Obviously there was a build up to it, but I think that was the one that really broke out. And just for that reason, yeah, Hall of Fame.
Hard agree. Amazing.
Big thanks to Victoria and Andrew for their excellent insight. As I mentioned at the top of the show, Victoria's new book, Mastering Community Management, is available now, so follow the link in the episode description to learn more. Likewise, if you want to subscribe to her excellent community dev newsletter. The zero-pressure, cozy world of Trash Goblin is yours to discover right now on Steam. Link also in the description, as well as links to the Discord servers for both Innersloth and Spilt Milk, just in case you want to join their friendly communities. That's all from me for now. I'll be back with another pairing of indie sweethearts, but until then, take care.